So, God in the city rather than faith in the city. By the way, a summary of this talk, I have a website which gets about 300 hits a week. And so you're welcome to have a look. It will come back again. I start with a personal introduction, just to say that the reflections that I'm going to share with you are very subjective, very provisional, and you don't need to take me seriously. Yes. But I would like to say something about my background so that you situate my reflections from that background. My home, where do I come from? It's a very difficult question to answer these days. And I know as I go around giving this sort of a talk, people always say, yes, in a city like London, most of us are in that type of a situation. We don't know where our home is, actually. So, that is where I was born, and I spent the first 25 years of my life. So I asked myself, am I really from India? Or am I from Kenya, where I spent 6 years? Or am I from Tanzania, where I spent 10 years? And now in London for the past 4 years. So, where is my home? And easily I say, home is where I am. Easily said than what is felt in my heart. As I now, I'm in my late 40s now, and there is a need for a home, actually. And wanting to settle down. I have moved around too much. And this is typical of people in the city today. I gave this talk to a parish council some time back. And people in the parish council, almost everyone had a member of the immediate family who had married somebody from another ethnic group. And then it was like we were telling a common story. And that is the story I'm going to say. And within the story, how does the story of God fit in? So, my academic background. By the age of 22, I had my master's in philosophy, thanks to the Salesians and Don Bosco. And I also did some studies in sociology in an open university in India. Then I did my theology for priesthood. And going out to Africa, I wanted something more practical. So I ended up studying psychology. But underpinning all these was my passion for religion. Religion as my own vocation, my life, but also as an academician, searching for what is the role of religion in this society. And my own master's degree in philosophy was in philosophy of religion, but studying the underpinning philosophical trends or philosophical underpinnings in the role of religion in India as a dividing factor. Caste system and the communal, in India we talk about communal conflicts. Okay, so that is the background I come from, and there might be some academic jargons in my presentation today. So basically I'm asking 3 questions this afternoon. What is a city like? Jerry gave us an impression of the city and how young people are within the city. My own perspective would be a global take on this. What is a city like today? And how could we be a believing community in this city? Believing community, church. And how as individuals we could search for God and respond to God in this ambient of the city. And I am not going to give you answers, just raising questions. 3 preliminary opening remarks. 1, I see a tug of war in my own personal life and in communities that I belong to. Religious community, in the church, in the world, a sort of between rigidity and chaos. When faced with change, we have these 2 options. Say you are planning for a Christmas. What do? When somebody says, let's do something new, no, we are not too sure because it could end up in chaos. So let us fall back to the timetable and what we did last year and what we have been doing all these years. Rigidity. And it's a tension. But my own hope and my dream for myself as an individual is integration. Virtue lies in the middle. Second, I see a tension in the academic world, very philosophical, but it influences our daily life, between naive realism and anti-realism. If you analyze or read between the lines of Pope Benedict's writings and talks, this is what he is undergoing. You can see he is really attacking that anti-realism from that perspective. Anti-realism, does it sound philosophical? No, it is about daily life. You read the Bible. How do you read the Bible? Is it from very naive, realistic point of view? Or Adam and Eve really historical people for you? Then it is naive realism. Are you going to say, oh, Adam and Eve didn't exist? That is anti-realism. So there is a constant tension that's going on in our churches, in our communities, in our own thinking. And I think there is a need for critical realism. And this is coming, okay, if you are philosophically oriented, this is sort of a postmodern philosophical orientation. But even today in this country, in academic world, there is this critical, realistic way of looking at the society. That there are some things real, and we need to critically look at it. A third comment. God is eternal, we say. God is eternal. What is eternity? St. Augustine defined eternity as a continuous now. A continuous now. Yes, so God has no history. God has no time as such in terms of duration, measurable time. But our own encounter with God is in history. And our own Christian faith is based on the fact, historical fact, that God shared human life in a particular time in history. But our own understanding of that, our own contemplation of that is ongoing. It is in a sense beyond time. And the temptation is to sort of fix God in human terms of history and miss out the living God who is here and now. For example, every time we celebrate the Eucharist, what are we doing? We are commemorating. We are celebrating a memory. But even as we celebrate the memory, it is not a dead history, but it comes alive. We experience God here and now, and that is at the core of our Christian faith, Christian life. So, is your God a God who is of the past, or are you constantly listening and corresponding, communing with a God who is here and now? Okay, so now we go to the first question. What is the city like? What is a city like? City, urban civilization seems relatively new, but it is not. Let us take an example. The Indus Valley civilization, which was contemporary to Mesopotamia and the Stonehenge era. Why do we call it an urban civilization? Because they had very good sanitation facilities, drainage system, they had very complex art and culture, and they had monetary system and political system, urban life. Okay, today the Indus Valley lies between India and Pakistan. Now, what is new about the city? Since the 1950s, the urban population has been increasing throughout the world. We must remember that after the Second World War, especially Europe, but also the rest of the world, is emerging in a very global world order, and societies have settled down a lot, especially the Western societies. And that has increased, that has contributed to this increase of urban life. As Jerry was pointing out, that adolescence, lengthening of the adolescence, is something that happened after the 1950s. For example, the word teenager entered the English lexicon in 1952. So what does it say? Here is a group of people that was non-existent practically in the previous centuries. So now, going back to this, looking more deeply at this urban population. In 1950, 29% of the world's population lived in urban environments. By 65, it had risen to 36. And now, right now, 50%. And by 2050, 70% of the world's population will live in cities. Is it good or bad? What do you say? Is it good or bad? You're not romantic about rural life. When I was giving this talk to a group of elders in the Roland Gardens care home, they said it's bad. And I said, if you're a young person living in northern Kenya with no access to water, no access to electricity, and no education, no health service, and you go to the church mission compound, and once you watch this program where this lady is lying in the bathtub, and her bathroom looks